Thank you for joining us today at Windrider Studios. I am Phil Allen Jr. The Lost Astronaut is a short documentary film that introduces us to an almost astronaut turned artist. I was moved by the heart of Ed Dwight Jr. in the film and its beautiful cinematography and storytelling. To dive deeper into The Lost Astronaut, I'm joined by the filmmaker Ben Proudfoot. Thanks for being with us, Ben.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
What made you want to shoot this film? How did this film come to you?
This film is part of a series of films in this series we make called Almost Famous with the New York Times. And it examines people with similar stories who, for one reason or another, aren't quite household names, but if history had gone a little differently, would have been. What I'm looking for is a tug, right? Like, I can contribute something to that, or that needs to be told. And so when you get that feeling, then it's like, drop everything and go.
Do you mind sharing what the tug was?
Probably the tug was his turn into becoming a master craftsman. And I think, there's so many things. His turn into becoming a master craftsman and just like being so excellent at that. Not just like a hobbyist, but like really internationally renowned artist. And especially, the intersection of these two big events of the 1960s, the civil rights movement and space race, these two things collide in Ed's story, which is just fascinating. And then his career turn as an artist is somehow linked to the, opportunity denied of being the first African-American astronaut, and how now his vocation is shining a spotlight on other heroes of African-American history. It just all felt so poetic and larger than life. And I'm after that. I'm after stories that speak to something larger than ourselves. And Ed's story just had that written all over it.
As I'm watching the film, I'm thinking about which is the greater tragedy, that he did not invest all those years in being the artist that he wanted to be from the beginning, that he actually got pulled into something and had to experience what he experienced, the racism, or that after he got pulled into it, he never actually got to be the astronaut that he pursued.
Mm-hmm. Ed Dwight is this unique product of all of these things. And so there's no question that the things that he had to face in his life are tragic. But we also have somebody having gone through those experiences who now can contribute so much in such a unique way. It's hard to grapple with that, right? Like he is so uniquely shaped to be able to deliver the kind of art that he has been able to, and prolifically so. For him to be able to turn that experience into something positive and beautiful, and in the case of his sculpture, everlasting, hard not to admire that.
While we talk about tragedy, there is beauty, obviously, to his story. There's this theme of death and resurrection. Have you ever experienced something like that, where there was this tragedy or this death of something that brought forth something beautiful?
It's something we're all faced with in our life, right? Total loss, right? Whether it's the death of someone we know or our parents, the death of a dream, the death of a friend, and we're all left with the question of what do we do after that? And there's not a lot of answers out there. It's actually something that I'm not a person of faith, but I'm totally jealous of people who are part of faith communities, because those kind of questions are welcomed and discussed and talked about on a regular basis, and they're kind of not elsewhere. And so I actually see filmmaking as a way to unlock that discussion just a little bit, even in a short documentary, so you can have that conversation with yourself and think about that process of, is what happens after that loss.
You used the term unlock. Given the context, the broader context of the racial climate that we're in this country, really globally, but particularly in the U.S., what do you think Lost Astronaut can contribute and unlock in that broader conversation?
Any documentary I make has less to do with me imposing my opinion and a lot more about me getting out of the way of whoever it is I'm making a film about, or whoever the storyteller is. I think there's something powerful about, the film ends with him talking about the first African-American astronaut. We are doing a lot of celebrating, we're doing a lot of achieving and celebrating of firsts. It wasn't too long ago we had our first African-American president. And to know that there were so many people that were almost the first who added their brick to the tower, who bent the arc a little bit more, who made their dent, right? And, there is someone who eventually gets to, be the flower, right? But what about all the roots and branches that got us there? And I think Ed's story tells us something about that, sheds a light on a person who made a difference on the way that got to progress, and that is part of progress.
The famous needed or needs the almost famous.
You can't have one without the other, right? And that's the thing. It's like, if it's so arbitrary, right? If this person gets to go to the moon, it's that person because this guy's white and this guy's black, right? And we kind of think back through all of our heroes and role models and who they are, and we think about all the people that didn't get chosen. Why? Why didn't they get chosen? Was it for, something like their race or their gender? Was it just luck? And it makes you really question, who are we celebrating? Why? And that sort of starts a much larger discussion of who we want to be and who we want to give our attention and our kudos and our applause. And I think Ed was just one of the most vivid exemplars of that question. Who is a hero in our society? And do we know their name? Maybe not. Might take a little bit of digging.
Wow. This was a rich conversation.
It was. I wish we could go on and on.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Always good talking to you. I walk away having learned something after our conversation. Thank you for joining us at the W. Look forward to seeing you next time.